March 17, 2024. Archaeologists working in the Sahara Desert unearthed something that challenged every timeline we thought we knew. Beneath 12,000-year-old sediment layers, ground-penetrating radar detected geometric patterns too precise to be natural. Stone foundations aligned to celestial markers that wouldn't be mapped for millennia, all contradicting the established narrative of human development. Whatever built these structures understood astronomy, engineering, and mathematics long before the first pyramid rose in Egypt. How many times has civilization reached its peak and vanished? And just how far back does our true history extend?
On the morning of March 16, 2024, Dr. Sarah Chen's team was conducting routine geological surveys 80 kilometers west of the Rishat structure in Mauritania when the magnetometer readings spiked unexpectedly. The anomaly measured 2.3 kilometers across, forming a near-perfect square oriented precisely 19.5 degrees off magnetic north. Within an hour, the same geometric signature appeared in satellite thermal imaging from 3 independent sources. The pattern was too regular, too intentional. Chen flagged the discovery and contacted the team lead at 0847 UTC. The coordinates didn't match any known archaeological site. Just 40 minutes later, Dr. James Okonkwo at the University of Lagos confirmed the thermal signature using archived NASA Landsat data spanning 15 years. He overlaid the images and noticed the pattern had been visible since 2009, hiding in plain sight beneath shifting sand. By 0932 UTC, both researchers agreed something unprecedented lay buried beneath the desert, and the scale suggested a settlement or complex far older than conventional chronology allowed. With political instability limiting ground access, satellite imaging and remote sensing became the only tools available. LiDAR scans from March 17th revealed the foundations extending 8 meters below current ground level. Ground-penetrating radar logs from March 18th captured regular intervals of dressed stone. The timeline crystallized. Chen posts the initial alert, Okonkwo verifies with historical data, and within 48 hours an international network of archaeologists is analyzing the imagery, searching for context. The real-time analysis channels filled with confusion and questions. Researchers compared the geometric patterns to every known ancient culture, but nothing matched. The precision was unprecedented for the supposed time period, and the astronomical alignments were more accurate than structures built thousands of years later. As the data accumulated, the need for ground verification became urgent. The discovery was not just an archaeological puzzle, it was forcing teams across continents to question the very foundations of human prehistory.
Spectrographic analyses of exposed stone samples told a story no one expected. Trace element mapping revealed tool marks consistent with Bronze Age metalworking. Yet radiocarbon dating of organic material trapped in the mortar returned dates of 14,800 years before present. Carbon-14 ratios were unambiguous, placing construction in the late Pleistocene, millennia before agriculture, writing, or permanent settlements were thought to exist. Soil core samples extracted from the site's perimeter showed distinct chemical layers. Concentrations of copper and tin oxides appeared at the 14-meter depth, suggesting metallurgical activity. Charcoal fragments showed burn temperatures exceeding 1200 degrees Celsius, far beyond what simple campfires produce. These weren't subtle anomalies. The geochemistry painted a picture of organized industry, planned construction, and technological capability that had no place in the accepted timeline. The most compelling evidence came from astronomical alignment analysis. The structure's corners marked the solstice sunrise positions with less than 0.3 degrees of error. 3 interior chambers aligned to Orion's belt as it appeared 15,000 years ago, accounting for precession. This level of astronomical knowledge requires generations of observation, record-keeping, and mathematical sophistication. Dr. Michael Torres, an archaeoastronomer from the University of Arizona, spent weeks verifying the alignments using simulation software that reconstructed the ancient sky. His findings were startling. The builders not only understood celestial mechanics, but had encoded specific astronomical events into the architecture itself. The winter solstice alignment pointed to a date approximately 14,600 years ago, matching the radiocarbon data with disturbing precision. While the Mauritanian site remained controversial, parallel discoveries 4,000 kilometers to the northeast were rewriting the Neolithic timeline. Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey, excavated since 1995, revealed massive stone circles built by hunter-gatherers 11,600 years ago. But Göbekli Tepe was just the beginning. By 2019, Turkish archaeologists had identified at least 12 additional sites in the region, collectively named the Taş Tepeler, or Stone Hills, civilization. Karahan Tepe, excavated starting in 2019, revealed structures potentially older than Göbekli Tepe, with circular chambers carved directly into bedrock. 11 phallic columns, surrounded by human faces carved into stone walls, suggested complex ritual practices. Unlike Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe showed evidence of permanent habitation with domestic tools and living spaces integrated into the sacred complex.
Professor Necmi Kahul of Istanbul University described the Taş Tepeler as evidence of a highly organized society operating 12,000 years ago, displaying tremendous creativity and sophisticated architectural planning. The sites stretched across 200 kilometers, suggesting not isolated achievements, but an interconnected cultural network. The discovery challenged the fundamental assumption that monumental architecture required agriculture. Lee Clare of the German Archaeological Institute emphasized the revolutionary nature of these findings. Before these new discoveries, the only site we could compare the data from Göbekli Tepe to was Nevali Shori. With the excavation of another large area such as Karahan Tepe, archaeologists can test their hypotheses about buildings being filled in and symbolism at multiple sites. The deliberate burial of Göbekli Tepe around 8000 BCE after 3,000 years of use remained one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Satellite imagery revealed the foundations, but aerial surveys found something equally telling: an absence. No pottery shards littered the surface, no tool fragments, no graves, no refuse heaps. The site had been deliberately cleared or abandoned with thoroughness that suggested planning rather than catastrophe. Standard archaeological signatures, the detritus of daily life, were missing. Thermal imaging showed the structure's heat retention pattern was uniform, lacking the hotspots that typically mark metal deposits or buried artifacts. The ground had been swept clean, either by human hands or by some event that removed everything not anchored in stone. Researchers expected evidence of occupation, workshops, storage areas, daily implements. Instead, they found only foundations and alignments, as if the site had been built, used briefly, and then erased. This absence struck many as deliberate. In every known ancient settlement, artifacts accumulate: broken tools, food waste, construction debris. They all leave traces that persist for millennia. Here, the lack of secondary evidence suggested either systematic removal or a function that left no waste. The foundations remained, silent and precise, but the story of who built them and why had been stripped away. Critics of lost civilization theories often point to this very problem. Dr. Flint Dibble, an archaeologist specializing in Mediterranean prehistory, argues that a real civilization leaves traces, and questions how an advanced society could vanish without the archaeological signature that even simple hunter-gatherers leave behind. Ancient hunter-gatherer sites contain stone tools, figurines, bones, remains of meals, and footprints. Where, skeptics ask, are the comparable remains of this supposed advanced civilization?
One possible answer lies in a cosmic event that reshaped Earth 12,800 years ago. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis proposes that fragments of a comet struck North America, triggering a 1,200-year period of global cooling that fundamentally altered human civilization. The evidence is compelling and controversial. Geochemical signatures found at 53 sites across 4 continents tell a consistent story. Nanodiamonds formed by extreme heat and pressure appear in sediment layers dated to the Younger Dryas boundary. Elevated concentrations of platinum and iridium, elements rare on Earth but common in asteroids and comets, mark the same horizon. Soot layers in Greenland ice cores suggest continent-wide wildfires. A black mat, an organic-rich sediment layer, appears at 2/3 of Younger Dryas archaeological sites in North America. Most tellingly, no remains of megafauna, mammoths, mastodons, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, appear above the black mat layer. No Clovis artifacts, the signature stone tools of North American hunter-gatherers, are found within the Younger Dryas sediment. Something catastrophic happened at the boundary between the Pleistocene and our current epoch, something that ended an entire way of life. A 2021 study in Earth Science Reviews concluded that overwhelming consensus of the evidence supports a comet impact approximately 12,800 years ago. The impact would have partially destabilized the Laurentide ice sheet, triggering rapid cooling as meltwater flooded into the North Atlantic. The shockwave, thermal pulse, and extensive biomass burning would have contributed to megafaunal extinctions and forced adaptive shifts among surviving human populations. Graham Hancock and other researchers propose that the Younger Dryas event destroyed an advanced pre-Ice Age civilization, with rising sea levels and climate chaos erasing most traces of their existence. In the centuries following the impact, human cultures transitioned from hunter-gatherer societies toward agricultural civilizations. Sites like Göbekli Tepe may represent the efforts of survivors attempting to preserve and rebuild lost knowledge. If an advanced civilization existed before the Younger Dryas, most evidence would now lie underwater. During the last glacial maximum 20,000 years ago, sea levels were 120 meters lower than today. Vast areas of continental shelf, prime real estate for coastal settlements, were above water. As the ice sheets melted between 15,000 and 7,000 years ago, these regions flooded, submerging everything built upon them. The numbers are staggering. The continental shelves represent millions of square kilometers of formerly habitable land. These areas served as hunting and gathering territories and as pathways of dispersal between continents. They most probably witnessed the earliest developments in seafaring, marine exploitation, and permanent settlements. All of this now lies beneath 50 to 150 meters of water, largely unexplored and poorly mapped. Marine archaeology has only scratched the surface. Extraction of mineral resources on continental shelves has driven some surveys, revealing tantalizing hints of submerged structures. Sub-bottom profiling, side-scan sonar, and bathymetric mapping have identified anomalies that warrant investigation. But systematic searches for prehistoric sites remain rare, hampered by cost, technology limitations, and the sheer scale of the search area. The Yonaguni Monument, off Japan's coast, offers a glimpse of what may be hidden. Discovered in the 1980s, the structure features massive rectangular formations with 90-degree angles, straight walls, steps, and columns. Professor Masayaki Kimura, a marine geologist at the University of the Ryukyus, argues that natural forces cannot explain the monument's regular layout. He claims to have found associated features, including roads and animal carvings. If the structure is artificial, it must have been built when the site was above sea level, potentially 10,000 years ago. The Bimini Road in the Bahamas presents a similar mystery. The 0.8-kilometer structure consists of huge rectangular blocks arranged in geometric patterns. Most scholars attribute it to natural beach rock formation, but the scale and precision continue to fuel debate. If built by humans, it would date to a time when the area was above water, thousands of years before known Caribbean civilizations. Gunung Padang in West Java represents one of archaeology's most contentious cases. The megalithic site sits atop a raised earth mound with stone structures visible on the surface. Conventional dating places the surface construction around 6,000 years ago. But in October 2023, geologist Danny Natawijaya and his team published a paper claiming that buried layers beneath the surface date to 25,000 years ago, making it older than any known pyramid. The team used ground-penetrating radar and radiocarbon dating of soil samples from core drilling. Their conclusion, an ancient civilization must have possessed remarkable masonry capabilities, which do not align with the traditional hunter-gatherer cultures of 25,000 years ago. The paper suggested the structure was deliberately buried 9,000 years ago for reasons not fully understood. The archaeological community's response was swift and harsh. Critics pointed out that dating soil beneath the structure doesn't date the structure itself, comparing it to saying scientists have dated the soil underneath the Eiffel Tower and concluded that the tower is 20,000 years old. In March 2024, the journal Archaeological Prospection retracted the paper for major error. Natawijaya and his team called the retraction unjust and based on unfounded claims. The controversy highlights the tension between alternative theories and mainstream archaeology. While the 25,000-year date appears unsupported, the question remains, what lies beneath Gunung Padang and how old is it really? The academic community remains deeply divided over how to interpret anomalous sites. The mainstream view holds that monumental architecture like Göbekli Tepe represents the pinnacle of hunter-gatherer achievement, not evidence of earlier advanced civilizations. These structures prove that complex societies could emerge before agriculture, fundamentally revising but not overthrowing the conventional timeline.
The lost civilization hypothesis argues that an advanced culture existed before the Younger Dryas, possessed sophisticated astronomical and engineering knowledge, and was largely destroyed by the cataclysm 12,800 years ago. Sites like Göbekli Tepe represent either the remnants of this civilization or the efforts of survivors to rebuild. The lack of artifacts is explained by catastrophic flooding, climate change, and 12,000 years of geological processes. Critics point to the absence of expected archaeological signatures. Dr. Flint Dibble notes that even simple hunter-gatherer cultures leave abundant physical evidence: stone tools, bones, figurines, food remains, and clear signs of habitation patterns. An advanced civilization should leave even more traces, yet the proposed pre-Younger Dryas culture appears to have vanished almost without evidence. The only explanation offered, that floods washed everything away, strikes many as convenient and unfalsifiable. A middle position suggests that human technological development was more varied and episodic than traditionally assumed. Rather than a smooth progression from simple to complex, human societies may have achieved localized advances that didn't spread or persist. The Taş Tepeler civilization demonstrates that Neolithic people were capable of remarkable achievements. Whether this represents independent innovation or the preservation of older knowledge remains an open question. How long does evidence of civilization last? This question drives the Silurian hypothesis, a thought experiment proposed by astrophysicist Adam Frank and climate scientist Gavin Schmidt in 2018. They asked, could we detect evidence of an industrial civilization that existed millions of years ago? Their answer was sobering. Direct evidence, technological artifacts, buildings, infrastructure would be unlikely to survive. Fossilization is rare, and Earth's surface is constantly recycled through tectonic activity, erosion, and sedimentation.
After a few million years, almost all physical traces would vanish. Instead, ancient civilizations might be detected through indirect evidence. Climate anomalies preserved in geological records could indicate industrial activity. Unusual concentrations of carbon, radioactive elements, or synthetic chemicals in sediment layers might betray technological societies. Temperature variations that don't match natural cycles could suggest ancient greenhouse gas emissions. The implications are profound. If an industrial civilization could vanish from the geological record in a few million years, what about a pre-industrial but still advanced society that existed only 15,000 years ago? How much evidence would survive of a Bronze Age equivalent culture that peaked before the last ice age and was then destroyed by climate catastrophe? The Silurian hypothesis suggests that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, particularly when dealing with deep time. The best preserved evidence might not be on Earth at all. The Moon and Mars lack erosion and plate tectonics. Artifacts left on these worlds could survive for millions or billions of years. If a pre-Ice Age civilization achieved spaceflight, admittedly a speculative leap, the most lasting traces might be off-world.
As of November 2025, the question of pre-Ice Age civilizations remains unresolved, but increasingly urgent. New technologies are opening investigation possibilities that didn't exist a decade ago. Satellite LiDAR can penetrate jungle canopy and map structures hidden for millennia. Autonomous underwater vehicles can survey continental shelves at depths and scales impossible for human divers. Machine learning algorithms can analyze vast datasets, identifying patterns humans might miss. The call for coordinated international research grows louder. Individual institutions cannot survey millions of square kilometers of submerged continental shelf or excavate dozens of buried sites. Open data sharing, standardized methodologies, and collaborative frameworks are essential. Some researchers urge governments to declassify satellite imagery and seismic data that might reveal undiscovered sites. Ground-penetrating radar surveys of the Sahara, systematic sonar mapping of coastal shelves, and continued excavation of the Tash Tepe sites may provide answers. Each discovery refines our understanding, either supporting conventional timelines or pointing toward something more complex. The next decade of research will be critical. The Mauritanian discovery, the Tash Tepe civilization, the Younger Dryas impact evidence, and the vast unexplored continental shelves pose a simple question: how much of human history is missing? The established narrative that civilization arose suddenly 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia and Egypt is already obsolete. Göbekli Tepe alone demolished that timeline. Whether the answer is isolated achievements by sophisticated hunter-gatherers or the remnants of a lost pre-Ice Age civilization, the implications are profound. Our species may have walked a longer, more complex path than we imagined. Beneath the sand, beneath the waves, the evidence waits. As of now, the true scope of human prehistory remains an open question, reminding us that even with cutting-edge instruments and decades of research, our understanding of where we came from is far from complete.